Good evening, everybody. Happy Friday. What a day in court. I think this will be one of those days that I never forget in my life. We had fireworks, you could say. We had Lori removed from the courtroom by the judge. We had all sorts of stuff to talk about, and I wish I had 5 hours. Unfortunately, I have about 30 minutes because I'm flying home tonight. So here's what we're going to do. By the way, thank you for joining me. I'm Nate Eaton. This is Courtroom Insider from Phoenix, about to head to Idaho. I got to get to the airport, but I could not leave today hanging because of everything that happened. We're not going to get to everything tonight. I'm going to talk about a few things, and then I'm going to save Brandon's cross-examination that Lori did on him today. We'll talk about that Sunday. Sunday night, we'll regroup. I'll be back here in Arizona. We'll have a little bit more time to do a deep dive into Brandon's testimony, other police officers who took the stand today. We'll talk all about that on Sunday. I apologize, wish I could get it all in, but I'm excited to go home. I'd love to know, by the way, where you're watching from. I'll try to get to a few of your questions tonight, depending on how much I talk here. But let's get straight to it. Today, Lori Vallow Daybell, trial day 2. Starting early, normally court is not held on Friday, but the judge wanted to hold court today because we were delayed with Lori's illness. Before court even started, the superior judge issued an order in response to Lori's motion to have Judge Boudreaux removed from the case. Lori had filed a motion again for the third time. She made a request one time in during a hearing that Judge Boudreaux get off the case. He said denied. Then she filed a written notice, and the other judge held a hearing before the trial started and said denied. And the third time, Lori filed another motion. She said that Judge Boudreaux did not grant her a hearing in which she was entitled to, and that he was fair. He was not fair, and he was not impartial to her. The judge responded today and said, the main argument is that you cannot file during a trial. You cannot file to have a new judge. You can't. The trial started, so that's kicked out. Also, Lori argued in her motion, apparently the legalities of why she deserved a new trial, but the judge said you can't do that in that type of motion. You have to argue why the judge might be unfair or why he might be, not treating her right. So that was denied. Judge Boudreaux stays on the case. Maybe he wishes he wasn't. Maybe he wishes he was done, because he is a very prompt judge. If you have noticed, we start when he says we start. There is no, even like right on time. If we're a minute or two late, it's a little unusual. Well, today the start time was 9:30. They ushered us all into the courtroom early. All the audience, media, very few of us there today. We were there by 9:15, waiting. 9:30 comes, there's no defense counsel or Lori. Trina Kay's there, she's ready. Detective Pillar's there. Trina's paralegal's there. The judge's team is there. The judge is ready to come in. There's no defense. Finally, Lori is brought in around 9:45-ish, 40-ish, and the judge comes out and says this.
Yesterday, Mr. Abernathy, one of the advisory council, said he would be late today because he had a child care issue, but that Ms. Hicks, the other advisory council, would be here and ready to start at 9:30. What time did that email come in?
Just the email came in at 9:20 that she was printing off pictures.
All right, so we got an email at 9:20 saying she's still at her office printing off pictures, which is wholly unacceptable. Ms. Daybell, you represent yourself. You do not need your advisory council here, but I'm going to split the difference. She's being sent an email that says if she's not here at 9:50, we're going to start. If there's pictures that need to be printed off, staff can do that. Staff can bring it over later, but she should have been here at 9:30. If this were federal court, she'd probably be going into custody. I mean, this is ridiculous. All right, I'm just letting everyone know what the holdup is. We're going to start at 9:50.
Well, he was not happy, as you could tell. A couple of minutes later, Pamela Hicks walked in the courtroom. And then everybody was brought back in, and Judge Boudreaux came out and addressed her. Now, I'm going to play another clip. He not only addressed her, but then Trina Kay wanted to get something on the record. She wanted to get on the record that about Lori's opening statement from yesterday. And here's how that whole exchange went.
She spoke about that she was a person who loved all people, that she has no malice towards people, and then she also spoke about Brandon hiring a private investigator. I want to start with the fact that the defendant is appearing to try to bring in 404 character evidence about herself. Rule 404A does not allow the defendant to bring in character evidence to prove action in conformity, which is clearly what she was doing. Assuming she does, then the rules would permit the state to then bring in specific act evidence of this defendant. The defendant is trying to say she is a peaceful person, she has no malice. I believe that will open the door to allow the state to bring in the fact that she is a 4-time convicted murderer. Next, the defendant, in terms of bringing up information about Brandon hiring a PI and trying to make it appear that he has some vendetta against her, we have worked very hard to try to say there is an incident in Chandler. Brandon Boudreaux was very aware of the fact that this defendant and her brother had shot and killed Charles Vallow. And this is why he was very afraid for his life and trying to realize where she was and where Alex was. So if she wants to go into all of that information, then again, I believe she will be opening the door to allow Brandon to then explain why he was in so much fear for his life, why he was hiring a private investigator to locate this defendant and locate Alex Cox. So I just want to make it very clear that should she go into those areas, I will be asking to then bring in the fact that she has been involved in the murder of Charles Vallow, her own children, and her current husband's wife.
All right.
And I believe 405 will permit that, Your Honor.
So I had literally the same thoughts during her opening statement, especially when she started talking about I'm a person with good intent, kindness, peace and love, etc. And I was thinking in my head, wow, she's opening a big door right here. Now, it's not witness testimony. The jury has been instructed specifically that that's not evidence or testimony. But I think the notice that the state is putting out right now is well taken, because if you elicit testimony through a witness or you testify yourself along those lines, there's several doors that would be opened in that instance. Do you understand that?
I understand what you're saying, Your Honor.
Okay. The schedule.
I also understand that the state also withdrew their 404B, that they had no intention of doing that. So
that doesn't mean you get to say whatever you want.
I'm not saying that.
Okay.
I'm just saying they did give a notice for 404B, and then they did withdraw it. So they didn't have any intention. I didn't have any intention.
The issue is if you bring in your good character as a reason of why this didn't happen, they're going to be allowed to rebut that type of testimony because you've opened the door to it.
So does that make sense? Basically, I'll try to break it down in a reporter's terms, is that they had decided they're not going to bring in these other crimes in Idaho or in Arizona. Originally, Trina K had filed a motion to do so, to bring in those other crimes and let the jury know what Lori Vallow was found guilty of in these other cases. Instead, she said they're not going to. They're going to focus simply on this particular case. Well, now Lori opened the door during her opening statements, which is not a time to testify or give a character witness, nothing like that. It is a time to present your case and tell the jurors what they're going to see. Instead, she said she was a sweet person, malice towards none. She's full of love. Now the prosecutor's saying she brought that up. We can bring stuff up that proves she's not as sweet as she thinks she is, that she killed 4 people. That's not really all about love. Now, did the prosecutor say they're going to open the door? Perhaps. We didn't hear anything to further that today, but I imagine that Lori had better be careful. Otherwise, this case is going to take on a whole new life. If this stuff's coming in, Lori can argue that. It will be something, and these jurors will have quite the story to tell. So, after that, we had a witness, a witness who came in and, well, the Gilbert police officer from yesterday, Lori continued to cross-examine him. No real headlines out of that, no offense, just kind of clarifying his investigative work, where the glass was found, the bullet remnants, the fragments, things like that. And then it was time for Brandon to get cross-examined. Now, as I mentioned, I want to hold all that for Sunday because I want to do kind of a deep dive on that. So Sunday night, we'll go all through that along with the other witnesses. But there were at cross-examination, Lori was going places that the prosecutor continually objected and the judge continually sustained. She was talking about personal things, about being there for the birth of their children and visiting the family. It was not questioning. It was more of her testifying and kind of Brandon saying, well, what's the question? And the prosecutor objecting, saying it's not relevant. It could be hearsay. There's no foundation and it's out of bounds. This doesn't pertain to this. The judge called them over for a sidebar. Now, one of the questions you all have is, why is the judge having a sidebar at his bench? Aren't they supposed to get on the headphones? They are, but honestly, I think sometimes the judge just wants to get it done and it's more hassle than it's worth to quickly get on a headphone. Now, if they are on the headphones, the court reporter listens in, and sometimes I think he realizes that these sidebars are going to be fast, so he just calls them up, deals with it, and then that's it. And that is what happened during the first sidebar. It was about a minute. I don't know what he said. I imagine he warned her to be careful with her questions once again. We then learn right before lunch that Lori wants to admit an email between Brandon and Detective Pillar. And at the bottom of the email, well, it's a series of emails, I guess. At the bottom of the email, Detective Pillar had asked Brandon, do you have any evidence or proof that shows that Melanie, your wife, would benefit financially from your death? Well, the prosecution, we learned, after objected to the email, jury was sent out of the room. We then learned from the prosecutor that they were not planning to introduce motive in this case. They don't have to. Prosecutors don't have to choose to prove motive. Often it helps. It helps the jurors understand and connect dots. But for this particular case, they weren't going to introduce motive. They weren't going to introduce the finances of it. And we also learned, big headline here, that Melanie Pawlowski is still under investigation, that it is an open case. Many of you have asked me every single day, is she under investigation? Why isn't she charged? The prosecutor said today she is under investigation. She did not say if she's going to be charged, but that is an open investigation. She is named as a co-conspirator. Because she's named as a co-conspirator, how would you call her if she's a co-conspirator and could face future charges? It's an interesting thing to think about. Lori argued that she wanted to admit the emails to prove that Brandon and the detective were chatting back and forth, that they were friendlier, I guess, than you would think. Prosecution argued, okay, you're going to admit this email, then we're opening the door here. As I mentioned, this case has a whole new leg. She said we'll have to change up the witness list. We'll have to bring in they didn't bring in the dark and light stuff, all of the religious stuff, which Trina K said they had not planned to do in this case. Well, she goes down this route as to light and dark and zombies and all that. It could open the door. We could be here another 4 weeks. The judge said he'd think about it. But before he said that, things got a little heated in the courtroom. In a moment we won't forget. Let me play you the video.
That sidebar again discussed similar issues of if the defendant brings in evidence or testimony that she was a good person and no ill intent and those sorts of things, and specific acts of her being a good person, it could open the door to other things that she may not want the door open to. The state, the defendant, and advisory council were at the bench when we had that short 1 minute sidebar, but I don't know if anyone wants to supplement the record on that. Ms. Kay?
Just, Your Honor, that again, the state did raise any issue of character evidence under 404A and 405, that if the defendant opens the door and tries to advise that she is a good person, a peaceful person, a kind person, a loving person, any of those other types of things, that we believe that would allow us under 405 to then bring in specific acts such as the murder of her children, her husband, and her current husband's wife.
All right.
Which would also be 404B that they withdrew.
And that would be
Yeah,
405.
they withdrew it, but if you bring up 404 that you...
Then all 404B is in, or do we get a hearing on what 404B can come in? If I open the door, do I get a hearing? We stop trial and I get a hearing on...
Stop. We'll have a very short hearing, okay? If you're going to introduce how you have great character and good character, we're going to have a short hearing on what evidence that they can bring in to rebut that character, which could
Okay.
include being convicted of 4 murders.
And would you
talk
like...
to your advisory council during the break. And
You don't need to yell at me either.
yelling at you, okay?
Yeah, you are, and you do not need to talk
Okay.
to me that way. I'm
Take
very
her out.
courteous.
Take her out.
I'm very courteous to you.
Bro, no, you have been nothing near courteous to me during the course of these proceedings. Talk with your advisory council about the rest of your cross. We're going to resume in 15 minutes.
All rise.
I can say I was not expecting that today, but I can tell you that the judge was not happy. First of all, you show up late to the court. Second of all, you continually don't follow his instructions when he's granted or overruled or granted the objections, and you keep talking and keep going down that line of questioning, and then you talk over him. I think Boreski reached a tipping point today, and we saw it there in the courtroom. Do you want to see it one more time? I know you do. Here it is.
That sidebar again discussed similar issues of if the defendant brings in evidence or testimony that she was a good person and no ill intent and those sorts of things, and specific acts of her being a good person, it could open the door to other things that she may not want the door open to. The state, the defendant, and advisory council were at the bench when we had that short 1 minute sidebar, but I don't know if anyone wants to supplement the record on that. Ms. Kay?
Just, Your Honor, that, again, the state did raise any issue of character evidence under 404A and 405, that if the defendant opens the door and tries to advise that she is a good person, a peaceful person, a kind person, a loving person, any of those other types of things, that we believe that would allow us under 405 to then bring in specific acts, such as the murder of her children, her husband, and her current husband's wife.
All right.
Which would also be 404B that they withdrew.
And that would be
Yeah,
405.
they withdrew it, but if you bring up 404 that you...
Then all 404B is in, or do we get a hearing on what 404B can come in? If I open the door, do I get a hearing? We stop trial and I get a hearing on...
Stop. We'll have a very short hearing, okay? If you're going to introduce how you have great character and good character, we're going to have a short hearing on what evidence that they can bring in to rebut that character, which could
Okay.
include being convicted of 4 murders.
And would you
talk
like...
to your advisory council during the break. And
You don't need to yell at me either.
yelling at you, okay?
Yeah, you are, and you do not need to talk
Okay.
to me that way. I'm
Take her
very
out.
courteous.
Take her out.
I'm very courteous to you.
Bro, no, you have been nothing near courteous to me during the course of these proceedings. Talk with your advisory council about the rest of your cross. We're going to resume in 15 minutes.
All rise.
And all of us went to lunch. It was a cliffhanger. If this is another docu-series, it'll end there. And we'll be back next week. In fact, I might almost do that because I got to get to the airport. But after lunch, I will say, after everybody, had a bite to eat, judge came in, Lori apologized. And the judge told her, well, I'll play you what he told her. And that is where things stood. Now, did Lori improve? Did she obey him? I would say she did better. There were still a lot of objections. There were still a lot of personal questions. I would say the questioning went much smoother in the afternoon with Brandon, and then we moved on to other witnesses. So there is what we have for tonight. Again, my apologies that I'm not able to stick around more, but I want to go home and see my family. I have not been home since pretty much Memorial Day, and it'll be nice to be there. So let me log into my email here so that I can read some questions. By the way, while I am doing that, I was walking out of the courtroom. I was running out of the courtroom this afternoon because I needed to get here to record this and then get to the airport. And I heard a lady yelling, "Nate, Nate." And I turn around and she's running toward me with donuts. She's here from Utah. She and her coworkers watch, and these are voodoo donuts. These are really good donuts. It's National Donut Day. I hope wherever you are in the world, oh my gosh, this smells so good. I ate one on the way here. It was a glazed, and it was massive, and it was incredible. So thank you very much. I forget her name, but we took a picture, and she was going to share it with her colleagues. I've been able to meet so many amazing people who come to these trials. There's been a lot this week, and it's nice meeting you all. Okay, let me get to your questions really quick here. You know what? Hold on. I got to get him from my phone because my computer's not loading. Stand by. My wife told me, you better not miss your flight, and I'm not going to. Pray there's no traffic. I'm one of those guys. I'm not checking a bag. I just have a backpack. So I'm really happy. First of all, shout outs tonight. We have Joyce from Chandler, Arizona, Annie from Glasgow, Scotland, National Donut Day. Oh, yes. I want to show you this picture too. Look at this. These are sisters from Springville. Everybody's on the donut train. I love it. Anna Lynn, Megan, Janalyn, National Donut Day. They love East Idaho News and watch every night. Thank you so much. Gina, bless you. Gina sent me a gift card to go to Cracker Barrel. So incredibly kind. It's right next door, and I'm staying at the same hotel next week. I think when the trial's over, I'm going to go have a nice Cracker Barrel meal. Susan K, Brady Starr, Sandy Odell from Snyder, Texas, Kathy Storer from Arizona, Corey Shire, Jen B, and Bob Haynes. Thank you all so much. I also have to do one more shout out of an email that just came in. I have an epic shout out that I'm going to save for on Sunday night. I just got a picture of a very dear friend of mine who you all know and love, and I'm going to share it with you on Sunday. Shyler Gray is a huge fan. Aaron sent me this, and his wife Shyler is a huge fan. He says, like, huge. Top follower. He says she has a crush on me. I don't know who would have that. But today's her birthday. She's turning 29 again. Shyler, happy birthday. Thanks for watching. Appreciate your wonderful support. And I really appreciate the support of newspapers.com. They're sponsoring this trial, Courtroom Insider, every night. They have some incredible things on their website. If you want to do a deep dive this weekend, use the promo code. Go to newspapers.com/Nate, Nate. You get 20% off a membership. You can also get a 7-day free trial. You can binge yourself on everything true crime. And I know many of you have because you have emailed me. And we'll talk more about that next week as well. Thank you all so much, newspapers.com, for being incredible supporters and sponsors of our program, Courtroom Insider. And they're just really nice people. They watch the show. Like, they're here every night watching with me and you, and they're going to be at CrimeCon. They're just amazing. All right, questions really quick. I've got about 5 minutes. Perhaps I'm hoping, but when does the stun belt come into play? Today the judge ordered her out. Why not push that dang button? That would have been something. I hadn't thought about that. I think he probably wasn't thinking, I don't want to think thinking straight. He just wanted to get her out. So there you go. Nate, have you noticed Lori messing with the back of her shirt inside her jacket and then turning her back to the jury? Is she hoping the belt will show? No, I think she does not want the belt to show. I think her purpose in adjusting her shirt and everything is to not have it shown. How can you tell us how judges are appointed to each case? Teresa asks. He was assigned, just random. They just assign him. I did ask that to the trial court people, and they said, yeah, we just randomly ended in his lap. Why were the car seats not in Brandon's car if he had just dropped his kids off at school? From Kathy. I'm not sure, Kathy. Rick says, wouldn't Brandon's Tesla have cameras? They got into that this afternoon. It's an older version of a Tesla. It did have cameras, but it was not recording. But yes, all Teslas do have cameras. Remember, his Tesla was a 2016 model. This happened in 2019. I would imagine these days, all the Teslas do have cameras. How is Brandon able to take his children into hiding without legal issues? Angela asks. That was a whole separate civil issue happening. There was a dispute, a custody dispute happening at the time. That's why we heard the other day from the PI, Melanie went to try to get her kids and was arrested for trespassing in Utah. So there was some legal issue. It's been resolved since. Is it possible that Lori could attend the trial from another room in the courthouse if her behavior continues? Yes, and you heard the judge there, Terry, say that if she keeps it up, she will lose the right to be her own attorney. If Lori continues to carry on, can the judge put her in contempt or call the trial or get other lawyers to represent her? Just answered that one. Thank you. Did Brandon hear all of the discussion? Yes, he was there for all of it. He saw it all. What was the mood in the courtroom when Lori was taken out? Were people stunned? I tell you what, I was stunned. I couldn't type fast enough. It was whoa. It was surprising. It was shocking. It was all of it. So yeah, it was quite a day. All right, everybody, I'm going to make my flight. I'm going to go home. I'll be back here Sunday night, 8 o'clock Mountain Time. We'll talk all about the rest of it. You can follow me on social media. Here's where you can find me. I hope you all have a great weekend. Go get a donut. I didn't see what kind is in here, actually. Let me show you. Oh, my gosh. Look at this. It's bigger than my head. Look at that. Almost. It's a maple bar. Smells so good. Okay, I better eat this on the way to the airport for my dinner. Everybody have a good weekend. This is Courtroom Insider. I'm Nate Eaton. See you Sunday.